This video is about what will happen in Game of Thrones Season 7 Episode 7. If you haven't seen Season 7 Episode 6, please do so, or if you hate spoilers, better stop this video. Pod and Brian arrive at King's Landing on horses. Dany sends her army of the Unsullied and Dothraki to King's Landing in case Cersei has a trap for her, and places them outside King's Landing. Jaime and Bronn oversee King's Landing defenses, and are impressed with Dany's army. Tyrion, Jon and others arrive with Dany via ships. Tyrion, Jon, Jorah, Dany, Davos, Theon, the Hound, who is the one with the white in a cage, as well as Dany's Dothraki blood riders are received by Bronn. Brian is already there and sees the Hound. She is surprised to see how he is still alive. They talk about Arya, and the Hound tells Brian to take care. The only person needing protecting is the one who gets in Arya's way. The Hound smiles and says he doesn't want to be in her way. They all arrive at the Dragon Pit, and it's a large amphitheater with 3 large tents. Other lords also start to arrive, and Tyrion feels like it could be a trap and looks around. Cersei arrives with Euron, the Mountain and Qyburn, and they sit. The Hound then brings the cage that houses the White to the middle of the amphitheater. Cersei asks Tyrion where Dany is, as Dany isn't present. This is when Dany arrives on top of Drogon, and with Rhaegal giving them company. Everyone is amazed, and Cersei wonders where the third dragon is. Theon and Euron see each other, and Euron challenges Theon to rescue his sister Yara. Jon then tries to explain about White and Night King and how they need to unite to fight the army of the dead. Cersei doesn't believe him, which is when the Hound opens the White cage and the White comes out like a wild beast towards Cersei. The Hound has him chained up so it isn't able to reach her. Cersei is amazed and afraid, and this is when the Hound starts to demonstrate how a White cannot be killed by normal weapons. The White continues to move even after the Hound cuts it up. Jon then yells out that there are only 2 ways to kill a White. The first, fire, so they set fire to one of the White arms and the arm stops moving. The second is dragon glass, and then Jon uses to stab the White with a dragon glass weapon and it dies. This is the proof that everyone needed to come together in order to survive the long night. There is only one war that matters. The Great War, and it is here. Euron pretends to be afraid and asks how many of these creatures are there. Jon Snow says hundreds and thousands of them. Euron asks, well, can they swim? And Jon responds no, so Euron says, well, I'm going back to Pike. And leaves with there's only one war that matters. The Great War, and it is here. Euron pretends to be afraid and asks how many of these creatures are there. Jon Snow says hundreds and thousands of them. Euron asks, well, can they swim? And Jon responds no, so Euron says, well, I'm going back to Pike. And leaves with his fleet. Cersei and Dany see the danger together, but Cersei says once the long night is over she must still be queen and offers Jon Snow to be the Warden of the North. Jon then swears an oath to Dany in front of everyone. I can only serve one queen, and that queen is Daenerys Targaryen. Cersei is shocked, pissed, and leaves. She is unwilling to collaborate because she is unwilling to bend the knee to Dany. Brian tells Jaime he needs to come with the Lannister army to fight the White Walkers, to which Jaime replies by complimenting her for her loyalty to the Starks. Brian replies, fuck loyalty. It's about survival. Jaime has seen all this and believes in the long night and will do all he can to help them. Now that Tyrion, Dany and Jon have seen Cersei's negative response, it means they won't have some of the southern armies as support in the north. Tyrion heads to the Red Keep with the Mountain behind him. Tyrion and Cersei have a conversation on how she blames him for all the Lannisters have gone through, how he killed their mother and father. Tyrion says there was nothing he could do and that Tywin just wanted him dead, so he had to kill him instead. He also tells her that Daenerys wanted to destroy King's Landing with fire, but he stopped her, trying to prove he doesn't want to destroy his own family. Then Tyrion says, if I'm so evil, why don't you order the Mountain to kill me? Cersei doesn't give a command. Tyrion decides drinks wine and Cersei doesn't. Tyrion says she is not drinking wine as she is pregnant. Cersei doesn't respond, but her facial expression gives it away. Tyrion then heads out with Cersei to meet the rest of the people that were in the dragon pit, and Cersei tells them that after speaking to Tyrion she will send troops north to help against the White Walkers. Tyrion and Dany talk about how Dany tells Jon that she can't have children, that the dragons are her children. Jon doesn't care if she can't have kids. Littlefinger tells Sansa that Arya is dangerous, and she has some evil plans, which is why she came back. He also tells her that Arya will use the letter against her somehow. Dany and gang are in Dragonstone after their meeting at King's Landing. Dany is in the war room where they are organizing the defense of the North, where will the Unsullied, Dothraki, Northmen, Southerners etc. will go. Ser Jorah knows a lot about strategies of the Targaryen kings, and says they need a defensive strategy as they need to defend. Theon tries to rally the remaining Ironborn left in Dragonstone to come with him to rescue Yara. This is when the fight between the leader of those Ironborn and Theon takes place. They kick him in the balls a few times, but nothing happens to Theon. Theon seems to be losing, which is when he gets back into the fight and beats him. They form a rescue party and head out to save Yara. Sansa gathers all the northern lords and leaders, and calls on Arya to come forward. Arya is worried as to what is happening. Sansa says it's time to judge the great treacheries and betrayals that have been done to the North, and we will judge the person responsible for them. She looks straight at Arya, and then says, "You need to tell me how many times you have betrayed the North." Arya is shocked and can't believe her sister is saying this to her. Sansa repeated and says, "You need to tell me how many times you have betrayed the North, Lord Baelish." This is when Sansa starts to name all his treacheries. "You killed Alyssa Arryn." Sansa then pulls out the cat's paw dagger and asks him if he recognizes it. Littlefinger says it belonged to Tyrion, but Sansa knew it was his. Next to Sansa is Bran, who has told her all these things, who then says, "You once told my father I told you not to trust me." Littlefinger is shocked when he hears this. Sansa then tells all the lords present how he sold her to the Boltons. Littlefinger realizes he's pretty much done, but still tries to get his way out by telling them lies and asking for help from Jon Royce and others. "When you brought me back to Winterfell, you told me there's no justice in the world. Not unless we make it." In the end, Sansa tells Littlefinger, "Lord Baelish, thank you for all your lessons." Sansa then nods to Arya, who slits Littlefinger's throat using the dagger that was intended to kill Bran way back in SO1-EO2. Littlefinger starts to choke in his own blood and falls to the ground holding his throat and dies. After Arya and Sansa finally patch up and reconcile, Arya tells Sansa she's the strongest woman she has ever met, and Sansa tells her that she could have never achieved the things Arya has, and they make up. Jaime and Cersei have a conversation about the upcoming war. Jaime is looking at a map of the North and starting to gather the Lannister armies to get ready to go north when Cersei asks him what he's doing, to which Jaime says he's getting ready to go north with the army, which Cersei says, "Nah, they have dragons and troops, they can handle it." She says she would be more than happy to see the White Walkers to kill as many of her enemies as possible. She tells him that she has obtained an agreement with Euron. He pretended to be a coward, but instead he is going to Essos to hire the Golden Company on her behalf. The Gold Company is an army of mercenaries Cersei bought as she got a new credit line from the Iron Bank. Jaime is disgusted by Cersei and they continue to argue. The argument gets heated up and we see the Mountain draw his sword in case things between Jaime and Cersei get ugly. Jaime is pissed and leaves Cersei. Finally, we see Jaime leaving the city, not in his Lannister uniform, and on his way out. He stops to fix his golden hand and looks back at the Red Keep, which is when the first snowflakes begin to fall on King's Landing. Bran is visited by Sam, who Bran recognizes, asks what he is doing there, and Sam tells him he needs to see Jon Snow. Bran says he also needs to tell Jon Snow a lot. Sam asks Bran what he needs to tell Jon Snow. Bran says that Jon isn't Ned's bastard but Lyanna's and Rhaegar's son, and that he was born in Dorne, and that his name isn't Jon Snow but Jon Sand. But Sam tells Bran that he is not a Sand, and that he has seen it in record that Rhaegar had his marriage with Elia annulled and married Lyanna, which shocks Bran. Sam then tells Bran that if he can see into the future and past that he should go see for himself. Bran then goes into the past and sees the wedding between Rhaegar and Lyanna in a forest. As he sees this, he realizes that Robert's rebellion was all based on a lie, because Robert was pissed and said that Lyanna was kidnapped. While this flashback is happening, scenes switch back and forth between Rhaegar with Lyanna and Jon and Dany on the boat. As the romantic scene between Rhaegar and Lyanna happens, we see Jon and Dany's romantic scene as well. Jon and Dany enter a cabin together, in which they begins to take each other's clothes off. Tyrion is the only one who notices that they are having sex. As boat sex intensifies, we see the scene where Lyanna is in Tower of Joy, where she tells Ned that the baby's name is Aegon Targaryen. Bran then says Aegon Targaryen is the legitimate heir to the Iron Throne. We see these events through the eyes of Bran, who wargs into a bunch of crows, and we are brought to Eastwatch by the Sea, where Tormund and Beoric are. The army of the dead with the blizzard following them like in episode 1 outside the wall. Tormund and Beoric are shocked as they see this, and then the Night King flies in on Viserion. Viserion and the Night King attack the wall. They focus on one part of the wall and melt it. The wall starts to break in a V-shape. The gap in the wall is wide enough for the dead to go through, and the Night King flies through the wall riding Viserion. Tormund and Beoric run for safety.